Hi, I'm here with Anna, and we're gonna learn today how to make a quilt. Now, this is the quilt we wanna learn how to make. It looks pretty easy, right?
Right, yeah. It's so great. The blocks are perfectly, fit together.
We have
great.
9 different designs. We have, some sashing blocks in between it. It's really what we would call a simple quilt, but are all quilts simple? Now, I brought Anna up here today to show us how to do this because I don't think you've ever made one a traditional way or not the Anita Goodesign way. So let's start at the beginning. When you're making a quilt on an embroidery machine, you have a really big hoop, and that's what we use. This is what goes on the machine.
Okay.
So right now, the first thing you're gonna notice is our quilt block is only 9 inches wide.
Right.
But how much fabric is here?
I mean, that's so much extra fabric that you're just wasting in the end, right?
You're just wasting it.
Yeah.
But how do you even figure out how to hoop it? And you really don't want to run out of fabric or buy too much fabric, and it's again waste all the way around. So let's pretend we're doing this the traditional way. So we would hoop this big piece of fabric, and then we would stitch our design, and it winds up looking like this.
All right. So then, but how would you know where the center is?
Well, that's the tricky part, and that's why if you'll notice they have, quilters have all these different kind of rulers and tools and things like that. So we would take a ruler, and we would measure a 9-inch square around this. Okay, we have to make it perfectly even, and we would measure a 9-inch square. Then we would take our rotary cutter, and we would carefully cut that square out so it's exactly 9 inches.
I mean, I can't even imagine how long that would take. You would probably have to do it again even.
Right, because if you cut one wrong and it's shifted over, or if it's angled a little bit, well, that's a wasted block. But say we have a lot of practice, and we bought all those extra tools and special rulers, and we wound up cutting our 9-inch block. We wound up with this. All right, so here's our quilt block. We have our designs, we have our fabric, and now what do we notice is it's really thin because all it is the piece of cotton. So we still have to add batting in there. We still have to add, the decorative stitches or stippling or any of that, and it's there. And then we still have to measure all of the border pieces and the sashing pieces and those. And she's like, well, I don't want to even be a quilter anymore.
What? No.
All these pieces we have to measure perfectly. So you spend most of your time cutting out fabric, making sure it's perfect, adjusting your seam allowances so everything lines up right. And it's really, really a trial. And then you wind up with all this.
All of that. So, if you were at the store and you picked out, that perfect piece of fabric, you'd be wasting almost half of it.
And then, what if you got to the end of the quilt and you ran out of fabric? Then you have to go back to the store and buy another quarter yard or another yard. So we decided to change all that. So if we move down here, we're going to show you our way. So instead of hooping all of that stabilizer and fabric together, we just hoop the stabilizer.
Okay.
It's less expensive. We don't have to worry about wasting it or running out of fabric. None of our quilting designs have the base fabric hooped. Simple.
Okay.
So we hoop that, it stitches a squaring stitch, and we add our batting down first. Now, that's really important because the batting is what's going to give the quilt all its, essentially what's going to quilt it. That's what's going to raise all your stippling stitches and your quilt stitches, things like that.
To give it that, traditional heavy quilted look.
Right.
Okay.
Then we just take a 9-inch piece of our fabric. That's it. We cut the fabric we want into a square. It doesn't even have to be exact, just maybe a little bigger. And then we lay that down right there over the squaring stitch and tape it in place.
Okay.
So how much fabric are we wasting here?
I mean, essentially none, just probably not even, because we'd cut that, the seam allowance we would want, and then just stitch in the ditch.
Right, so no wasted fabric. So we put this back, we tape it in place, we put it back on our machine, and then we stitch our design. And then we wind up with design perfectly centered, perfectly squared. You could feel the difference here and how substantial that is as opposed to this.
I mean, that you can just ball up.
That one is done right. So when we do the next one, they perfectly line up and match. That's the beauty of our mix and match quilting system, is that I don't have to do this all today. I can come back next week, make 3 more, come back next month and make 20 more. You could do a bedspread, stack the pieces up. I don't even have to remember where they are. I don't have to use a ruler. I just stack the fabric up, stitch through it, and do that. And you're gonna see in the upcoming clips how you could use this system for folded fabric blocks, log cabin quilts, borders, sashing, everything you can imagine. And the best part is they're all interchangeable. You don't have to measure, You don't have to waste fabric. You don't wind up with this.
That is
You wind
great.
up with that.
I mean, why would you even want to do that? No way.
Nobody wants to do it. Nobody that works at Anita Goodesign has ever created a traditional quilt, because this way is so easy that if we find something new we want to do, say for a log cabin quilt, for example, we just then design that collection. So our goal here is to make quilting easier, more fun, and less about measuring and cutting and stacking and all those things that make quilting frustrating.